Hey guys, welcome back to part number 7 of Journey, or Tapper, not Journey. Today I'm going to sand down the sides and the top and these edges and everything, and we're going to get it painted. We're just going to paint it a single stage black. This side looked really good, really didn't have any nicks on it. It was this side that was kind of nicked up, and the reason why this side was more nicked up is this was the side I was having a harder time getting that vinyl off of, and I used my putty knife and I kind of gouged into the wood a little bit. Well, I couldn't really notice it much when I went to sand it down to do the body work on it initially, because particle board is kind of hard to see when you have nicks and pimples in it, unless you feel really good. And I didn't really feel too many because it was so smooth, but it is what it is. I took a little bit of icing and I filled in those nicks. So now we are going to sand it down. I'm going to sand it down with a 180 grit first, and then we'll go to a 320 grit. So let's get this sanded down so we can get it painted. Now you can see here, there's no gumming up of the primer on the sandpaper. That means it's nice and dry and we don't have to worry about that. If it's gumming up on you on the sandpaper, let it dry more. I baked it at 140 degrees, so I don't have to worry about that. If you look up close, I just lightly sanded it. But you see these nicks and orange peel and stuff, we want to get all that out of there. If we don't get this stuff out of here, you can actually feel it a little bit. If we don't get this stuff out of here, it'll actually show through on the vinyl over time. Not right away when you first put the vinyl on, but once it sets up and dries or sits for a while, it tends to start showing stuff like that through the vinyl. So I'm going to keep sanding here. I just wanted to show you that when I lightly hit it with the sander, just so you can see what I'm talking about. still clean, nothing, no gummed up primer. Let me show you what this looks like up close. Now, this is particle board, so I broke through a little bit right here, but it's just my body filler. I'm gonna use an epoxy sealer over this before I put the black paint on. Now, if you start sanding and you're hitting particle board everywhere, like a bunch of spots here and there, you're gonna wanna primer it again. Because if you don't primer it again and you go to paint it, those areas are gonna take the paint differently than the primer areas. Now, I know that it's getting covered with vinyl, but it's just nice to have a really smooth surface to put your vinyl on. It just turns out better. So I would definitely recommend, if you go through anywhere, to re-primer it. You can, even if you're doing a roll-on primer, when you go to sand the primer, if it's gumming up on you or you're breaking through, just put some more on. What's another day? It's not like this needs to be done, you know what I mean? So let's sand down this side real quick, and then we'll go from there. That's another reason why I put the icing over the nicks on the cabinet, because if I would have sanded first and then put the filler down and then sanded the filler, more than likely I would break through the primer around those areas and the particle board would be exposed. So I know that you're really supposed to put the filler on after you sand so it has something to stick to. But if you look up here, I've sanded just about all of it off. There's only a little bit left in there. And this is not like it's a car paint job where that matters. You're putting vinyl over it, you're completely sealing the surface, it'll be just fine. Okay, this sanded out really well. There's one spot I need to put a little filler. And if you noticed, I didn't sand around it a lot. Right here, that's too deep there and there. So I'm gonna put a little bit of filler in those two. I didn't sand a lot because I did not want to sand through the primer. So I just lightly sanded over there. And you can kind of tell how deep some of those are, and you're gonna know that they're just not gonna come out no matter how much you sand them. So I'm gonna mix up a little filler, put it on those two spots, and I'm gonna sand the back and the top and stuff off camera, and then I'll come back. Trying to think if there's anything else. Nope, I think that's it. I'm gonna go ahead and fill those couple spots, get the back and top sanded, and I will be back. Okay, now I'm gonna sand around here and stuff. I hit it with the DA sander, but it doesn't get all the way deep into the corners, so I need to get into the corners. I'm gonna use a little block, and I'll probably get a little piece of sandpaper by hand and go in there as well. That area is drying over there, that one little nick. Now, if you have any nicks and stuff in the cabinet, and you're looking at it, and you're contemplating, and then you tell yourself, oh, it'll be good enough, it'll be fine, fix it. Because if you don't fix it, you're not gonna be happy in the end. And most people, you know, you buy your artwork once because it's expensive. You know, you spend $300-400 on a set of artwork, and you put it on, and then it looks like crap because your prep work underneath looks like crap. So if you are second guessing yourself on any of that stuff, just fix it. If it means that you can't paint it that day and you have to wait another day or another weekend, just wait. In the end, you'll be way happier if you just spend the extra time and get it to exactly the way you want it. Now, if you're not a real picky person and it doesn't bother you, then go for it, you know. It's just how you are and how you want it to look when you're done. I'm pretty picky about this stuff, so I would rather take the extra time to get it how I would like it than to rush it. So now I'm going to try to sand these edges here, and that same thing applies with cars. You know, when I was younger, I wasn't as picky as I am now. Now when I do cars, I'm pretty picky, and I just want to do everything to the best of my ability, just to, I guess, challenge myself and prove to myself that I can do it. So let's get these edges sanded here. I'm sure my big head's probably in the way. I think we're all right. Now these edges are pretty important because these show. These get black paint and they don't get any vinyl on them. You know, none of this right here, and this gets covered by the cup holders, so that doesn't show. Mainly it's just, really on these cabinets, that is like the most important area. And I mean, depending on how picky you want to get with the back of the cabinet. Now, I didn't go crazy on the back of the cabinet. I'm okay with that. The back of the cabinet, the top and bottom are made out of plywood, which show some graining, and I'm fine with that. But these parts right here, in my opinion, you want to get them really good. You got that nice, you know, glass bezel with a mirror print on it and stuff. You know, everybody's gonna be focusing and looking at that and the marquee and everything. So you want all your surrounding areas to look good around it. I'm just using 180 grit again. I could use 320 in here, but the 180 just seems to cut it down quicker, so I'm not sitting here sanding it for a half an hour. So I'm going to go ahead and sand all these edges down, and then I'll be back. Okay, I finished sanding everything down. I have it in the spray booth. I'm warming it up right now. I'm going to wipe it down with a wax and grease remover. I already blew it off once out there. We're going to wipe it down real good, and then we'll blow it off and tack off it. This is a solvent-based wax and grease remover. You can also use spray the top and everything. All right, I'm back. I am going to mix up a little bit of epoxy primer to use as a sealer to put down and cover any sanding scratches before I put down a couple coats of black. This is a 2-to-1 mix, 2 parts epoxy, 1 part hardener, and then you can go up to half a part of acetone. I ran out of acetone, so I'm going to use some urethane reducer. I've used urethane reducer in the past without any problems whatsoever. So I'm going to mix up 2-to-1. We don't need a ton of it. I just want to put a light coat on for any sanding scratches. Before we spray this, I'm going to blow the cabinet off one more time, and I'm going to tack cloth it off, because when you run the rag with the cleaner, it tends to leave some residue behind. So blowing it off and tack clothing it will get the rest of that stuff. And then we'll put a coat of this epoxy primer sealer on. After that, we'll let it set for 10 to 15 minutes, and then we should probably only need to put 2 coats of black on. I'm definitely only going to put 2 coats of black on the sides. The front and the back, I might do 3, depending on how it looks after 2. Really no point in using more than 2. It's kind of a waste of paint, considering it's all getting covered up with vinyl in the end. So I'm going to go set the camera back up out there. We'll go out there, we'll blow it off, we'll rag it off with the tack cloth, and then we will put the coat of epoxy primer on. dry for 10, probably 15 minutes, and then we're going to mix up some black paint. So I'll be back to show you what black paint we're going to use. Clean the gun here first. Okay, the paint we're going to use is from Summit Racing. We're going to use, it's hot rod flat single stage acrylic urethane paint, and it's just matte black. And we're going to put 2 coats on. We should be good with that. This is a 4-to-1 mix. 4 parts paint, 1 part hardener, and then I'm going to put a little bit of reducer in it just to thin it down a little bit so that it sprays a little bit smoother. You don't want to put too much reducer in it, just a little bit. Want to mix this up really good. I haven't used this in a while, so I'm going to make sure I get it really mixed up here. And we made the sealer, we did it with one cup, did 1 coat on the cabinet, so we should only have to fill this cup twice. When you get a new gallon of paint, I always take a little poker and I poke holes around the rim so that when I pour it, after I'm done pouring it, the rest of it drains back into the can. Now, this is a hardened paint, so I'm going to take my stir stick out of this gallon and use it in here. Don't put your stir stick back into that gallon because you'll have hardener on that stick and it'll start contaminating and ruining the paint in the gallon. So don't use that stick again. If you want to remix the gallon, get another stick to mix it with. Just put a little bit of reducer in there just to thin it down a little bit, make it a little bit smoother, thinner when I spray it. Less orange peel. Mix it up real good, get that hardener all in there. Now, chances are we probably won't use this whole cup on that first coat, so whatever's left we'll mix up a little bit more. We'll probably have to use another cup to mix it up, but we'll mix up a little bit more and fill this up probably 3/4 of the way again, and then that should be good. Should be about all we need to do this cabinet. So I'm going to go ahead and get the spray gun wiped off. Now, as you notice, I do not use a strainer on my paint because my lids have a strainer built into them. So you don't have to use a strainer when you pour it into the cup because the lid will strain it as it's going into the gun. So I'm going to go ahead and get the gun out of the gun washing cabinet, wipe it down. I'm going to get this set up outside. coat number 1. It's always a good idea to paint the T-molding edge too. Just in case for some reason your wood hangs over a little bit farther than your T-molding, it's at least painted, so it's not bare wood. I think we'll be just fine on this cabinet. It wasn't really swelled up or anything. I sanded it down really well. There's only a little bit of paint left. I used a little bit more paint than I thought I was going to because I did a coat. I sprayed some on the inside because I had gotten some gray primer in there from before. So there's only a little bit of paint left. So we're going to use a cup. We're going to mix up some more. We're probably going to mix up close to the same amount again. So I need to kind of eyeball from that cup to this cup about where I was. We'll do 12 ounces. Well, it's 4 to 1. I went to about there. 16 ounces. Let's do 14 ounces. So 14 ounces of paint. Every 4 ounces is 1 ounce of hardener. So 4, 8, 12, that's 3 ounces of hardener. And then we're going to 14, which is a half. So 3.5 ounces of hardener. You can use the scale on the side, but I'm just going to do it this way. So 14 with the paint. Now we need 3.5 ounces of hardener. 17.5. So we're going to go from the 14, and we're going to split 16 and 18 to 17. Then we're going to go a little bit above that. We're going to go almost up to 18. Stop there. It's okay if you put a hair more. Just try not to use too much extra hardener. A, you can make the paint dry too much and actually be brittle. And B, if you are buying just enough hardener for your paint, you're going to run out of hardener before your paint's gone. And we're just going to put, I'm going to put 2 ounces of reducer. Reduce it a hair more than I did on the last coat, just to get this coat to be a little bit smoother. And then I'm going to take the extra paint I had left over and I'm going to pour it in this cup as well. Then we're going to mix all of it together as one. And then we will get our last coat put on. As you can see, it coats really well, it covers really fast. I'm trying to do a 50% overlap. So every pass, my next pass down, my band is 50% over the first pass. It's pretty critical to do that on satin finishes because satin finish paints like to leave zebra stripes, you know, if your spray pattern is too far apart between rows. This, for the most part, you would never see it on this cabinet because it's all getting covered with vinyl. If this was a cabinet where, like, let's say Galaga, where you're painting the whole cabinet black and then you're only putting a sticker on the side on part of it, you want to be real cautious when you spray it that you don't have a bunch of striping in your paint, because you will see that because it's going to be visible on your cabinet. Obviously, if you're using a paintbrush and a roller, you don't have to worry about those things because, well, I guess you do. You kind of do. I have seen rollers where you push too hard and it leaves lines and marks. We actually have a little bit more paint this time than we did last time. So I'm going to spray a little bit more inside the cabinet just to make sure everything's covered in there. I did take the serial tag off of the inside of the cabinet for painting because I did not want to get overspray on it. It's paper. I did not want to put any tape on it because if I put tape on it, chances are when I go to peel the tape off of it, I'm going to ruin the paper, piece of paper that has a serial number on it. Somebody had asked me about the Journey. They were like, why did you take the tag off the inside of the Journey cabinet? And I had to explain to them that I took it off so I didn't get overspray when I painted the cabinet. I did not mention that I didn't want to put any sort of tape or anything on it because I didn't want to run the risk of ripping it and tearing it apart. So let's go back out there and we'll get this last coat put on. was the last coat. Everything looks good. Now if you have leftover paint, make sure you throw it away. You cannot pour it back in the gallon. It has hardener in it. It will ruin it. So the leftover paint you have, you just got to get rid of it. Luckily I don't have much left. I just leave it in these disposable containers for it to dry out completely, and then I throw it away. Another tip too, when you're painting or spraying, if you're looking to get a nice smooth finish, I was talking about that 50% overlap. You can go a little bit closer too. And also, a good thing to check while you're spraying is watch your line from your previous pass with the spray gun. Try to keep that edge consistently wet all the way down the cabinet. That'll definitely help you from getting stripes in your paint job, is to keep a continuous wet edge rather than your pattern coming down and then you got a stripe of a dull or, you know, not as shiny of an area right there. So I'm going to stop this for a few minutes and then I'll come back and we will go and walk around the cabinet so you can see what it looks like. All right, let's take a look at it. It's still drying. You can see there's a little bit of striping in it, but it's not fully dried yet. It's kind of hard to see, but if you look up close, it's extremely smooth. This will go into the basement tomorrow. Okay, while that is drying, we'll keep it in there overnight, and then tomorrow I'll take that down into the basement. I want to get Journey finished up before I start putting Tapper together, which is fine because that'll give the paint to dry for a while before I put the artwork on it. I usually like to put the artwork on the cabinet after, you know, a few days to a week after it's painted, just to let all the solvents and anything come out of the paint before you trap it with vinyl. We printed the sides and the front. We use HP air gap vinyl. So that, I think it's air gap or air release or something. What it does is it lets the vinyl breathe, so it lets what's behind it come out. It's real nice stuff. It's not as good as the 3M, but it's pretty close in my opinion. And it's real nice to work with. I don't use any water or soapy water or the rapid tack that you use to install the vinyl. I just do it dry. I usually do it standing up. I'm not sure if I'm going to do this cabinet standing up or if I'm going to lay it down. More than likely I'll probably do it standing up. I usually tend to like to do it that way. It just seems to be a little bit easier for me, and I tend to get less bubbles in it because I kind of let it drape down. I'll just peel the paper back, you know, a couple feet, cut it off, stick the top, let the bottom drape down, and then I can slowly unroll it as I'm squeegeeing it down. But I'll show you guys how I do that. Also, I'm not sure, I'm still on the fence if I want to put this monitor back in the Journey cabinet that it came out of. There is a little bit of screen burn, but I forgot that there is a piece of smoked plexi that goes over the screen. And I'm pretty sure this monitor works. I don't know if that other one works or not. The other monitor, if it does work, I have to take it out of the chassis, the frame that it's sitting in, and replace it with this frame, because this frame has these brackets on it and everything to hold the surround. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I might test it and see if this works. We'll see what it looks like with the game on, if this does in fact work good. I don't think it needs a gap kit or not. It's a newer monitor in the old style frame, so somebody already had taken a newer monitor and put it in this old frame. But that's going to end Tapper Part 7. So now we have another cabinet saved. So if you guys remember, we took the top off, the front off, the bottom off. So we replaced quite a few pieces, but we saved the cabinet. It didn't get scrapped. It didn't turn into a multi-cape. So that's another one saved, and I'm pretty happy about that. I think that's going to end this video. Thanks guys for watching. If you're liking it, please subscribe and like. Thanks guys. Have a good night.